Hi folks, so today I'm going to be sculpting and animating a face in Maya. So if you're here for the animation, you can skip ahead. If not, hang around for the sculpting. So Maya has quite a few different sculpting tools. It has this sculpting shelf. These are all the different tools that you can use, and I'm going to be showing you how to use some of these, the ones I use the most. When we start to sculpt, we usually like to start on a base mesh. That's a kind of simplified version of the object we're going to sculpt. So if I go to Windows, General Editor, I can go to something called the Content Browser. And this has all of these kind of simplified objects that are a great starting point for sculpting. So I am going to go to Bipeds and I'm going to select the basic head mesh. And then I'm going to exit. I'm going to zoom out. Okay, so we've got our head selected. I like to work slightly at a slightly higher polygon rate than what Maya gives us. So I'm going to add some more divisions. I'm going to do that by going to Mesh, Smooth, and I might, if we've got this little pop-up here, I might divide it twice. And that will give us a quite high res, high poly model, which is much nicer to sculpt on. So now we're ready to start sculpting. So the first thing I like to do is use the grab tool. This is the grab tool here. I'm going to double click on it and that will bring up the little tool option box, which has the size of the brush and the strength of the brush, which we can all play with. It's got symmetry as well and various other settings that we can have a little look at. You can change the size of the brush by changing it here, but you can also hold down B on your mouse and use that to scale the brush. So holding down B on the keyboard and moving the mouse to change the size of the brush, which is very handy. You want to think about strength. That's how strong the effect is going to have on the object. So I'm going to turn that right down. So the grab tool, basically you can grab any part of the object and just move it. So I'll just turn the strength up just to show you what it's doing, and you can just move it around. So it just grabs part of the object. It's a great tool to start with because you can kind of pull the mesh into that basic kind of shape of the character, because you want to kind of start big and then gradually add that detail in. So I'm just grabbing parts of the object and kind of pulling it around. You want to keep that camera moving, because only by moving around you really get a sense of what these tools are doing. They can be quite unpredictable, so something can look great in one angle and then you move it and you find that you've messed it up in another part of the model. We can also turn symmetry on. So if I turn on symmetry in the x-axis, it's going to be mirroring on each side of the head, which can be really useful. Okay, up these brows a bit. I can pull out the nose a little bit. Okay, the next tool I tend to like to work with is the wax tool. And that builds up the surface, or it can take away from the surface if you invert. But it does so in a very kind of smooth way. It's a great tool, I think, for kind of low res, for the kind of initial kind of low res modeling, when you're just kind of trying to put in those basic shapes. So I can just start putting in where the mouth is. I can take away, create, to begin to put in those shapes. I can start putting in the brow. I'm going to slip over now to the sculpt tool. This is kind of a pretty much an all-purpose tool for just adding and taking away material. It's much stronger than the wax tool. You can see immediately. So I'm going to pull that down. I can just start building up the brow, building up under the eyes. Start putting in detail. can also cut away, and by holding down B I can scale that brush down. So I can start cutting out the eyes a bit. Doing the mouth, I want to turn symmetry back off. Let's come into the mouth a bit. And let's turn off invert, so that's adding material now. And let's add a bit more. And then let's take away. One really useful tool is the smooth tool. So that's this tool here. And you can use that just to begin to round stuff off. What can really help is getting some reference imagery up as well, so that you're working from life. That way it's going to look a lot more realistic. Okay, that is getting there. Let's turn that down. I'm going to put in about 1.8 because I want this to be quite subtle. You can see I'm beginning to get a little bit more detailed, very slowly. Okay, from the front it's looking pretty good. From the side it's got kind of, not quite there yet in terms of shape. Let's use that smooth tool just to kind of round stuff off a bit more. Changing the size of that brush can really kind of help. Okay, let's cut in now. Put some of these wrinkles under the eyes. I'm really focusing on the face, but I will sketch in a little bit of detail for the sides of the face. I'm not going to focus on ears or anything, as this video is really about just sculpting the face. And we're just putting in those kind of really fine details. You can drop that to about 8, and then we'll just kind of pick out the lip a bit. generally you don't really want to sculpt the eyes. Usually those are kind of separate spheres that are put in place because you want those to kind of be able to animate freely by themselves. But I'm going to kind of suggest them a little bit. Start with strength a little bit. Kind of cut in those eye holes just a bit more. That could do with a little bit of smoothing. A few kind of weird shapes that I just might use the grab tool to kind of round off a bit. Chin is looking a bit strange. Let's kind of get this into a bit more of a chin shape. I might turn symmetry off for this bit. There. There. That kind of feels a bit better. Okay. I'll put in some of the nostrils now. Okay. It's looking a little bit too asymmetrical. Let's kind of get that a bit better. Okay. Okay, that is kind of getting there. Bring that strength down to about 1. Just bring it down to 6. Scale the tool up just a tad. I'm just going to create a little bit of a come down just a bit there. Go round it off just a little bit. Okay, that's nearly there now. Okay, that will probably just about do. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to reduce the mesh just a little bit. I'm going to reduce the mesh a bit. I'm going to change the material. I'm just going to assign it Lambert. Okay, now I'm kind of ready to animate this guy. So I'm going to duplicate this head a few times. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put different expressions on each of these faces. So this one here, this first one, this original one, is going to be that neutral expression. I'm going to create a range of different expressions. So what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to select character, and I can use the sculpting tools, just to kind of change his expression a little bit. So we might add a smile. Let's double click to bring that up. And with a smile, generally, not just the mouth goes up, but the cheeks go up, the eyes go up in a bit more of a smile. Perhaps the brows raise a little bit. Okay, cool. That's our smile. That'll do. Next, let's create a bit more of perhaps a bit of a scowl. So let's kind of bring that face down. Let's bring his brows down in a bit more of a frown. Cheeks can come down just a tiny bit. Let's go up a little bit there, just to kind of narrow his eyes a little bit. Yeah, that looks cool. Okay, next one. Perhaps this could be sad, so let's kind of, oh, we don't want to be on smooth. Let's grab the grab tool again, and I'm just gonna, this one's a bit more the sadder one, so perhaps he raises his brows a little bit. Perhaps his bottom lip comes out a bit. Okay, cool. Could maybe take this a tad further. Let's go to the, let's kind of pull that face down a little bit more. Chin can come down a little bit too. And this last one, perhaps this is a surprised one. Oh, I should have done that with a sad one. Let's go back. Let's bring his brows up like that. There we go. There, that looks good. Right, let's go back to this one. Let's arch the brows for this one a bit. So we've got a few different emotions. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the blend shapes, so which is up here in deform. First of all, we have to select them all. So the last one I'm going to select is going to be the neutral one. I'm going to select all of these. So I'm holding down Shift and selecting them. That neutral expression, you want to stay green. The rest should be white. That's how you know you've selected them in the right order. So I'm going to go to deform, and I'm going to click on the little blend shapes option box here. And I'm going to call this expressions. And I'm just going to hit create. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Windows, Animation Editor, Shape Editor. And here we have our different faces. And we have these sliders. We can actually mix and match expressions, which is great. So it isn't just simply on and off, you can change the percentage. So that one there, that's the, I think that was kind of a surprised happy, but it kind of looks, let's just call it happy 1. And then we've got this one, that's a sad one. The angry one. And call that happy 2. So we can mix and match these. We can actually have him angry, but also kind of put some of the happiness in there. So you can mix and match these expressions, which can be really great and create a really wide variety of different things that you can do with the animation. We can keyframe the animation, so I could create a keyframe let's just play the timeline back. It's a bit fast, so I'm going to make it perhaps 250. And let's have him start at neutral. And we'll get keyframe for happy neutral. We'll get keyframes for all of them. And then perhaps at frame 60, sort of, he can perhaps begin to look happy, and we create a keyframe there. So now we'll animate between those two. Then perhaps we could bring in some of the second happy, which again is going to change things. And then perhaps we could bring in the angry. Drop off the happy a bit. Bring this happy down. And then finally bring in the sad. So now if I play it back, you can get a whole different range of emotions. So you can play around with this a lot more, but this is a very quick and easy way to animate expressions within Maya. Hopefully that was useful. I am going to leave it there, but have a go for yourself and see if you can figure it out.